we'll start off. It'll be just a couple minutes. You can have in media res style. Oh, look everybody, you've caught me sharing this video to my own personal social media stream. Welcome once again everybody to another edition of Grassroots Motorsports Live. I'm JG Pasterjack. You are here on a fun night. We got Andrew Rains from ApexPro. We're going to talk a little bit about data acquisition, affordable data acquisition no less, how you can use it to help your autocross, to help your track day, to help your race car development, and how you can use it to help develop your car. And it's much, much easier than you may have given it credit for. I'm going to put my phone away in a second, but first I'm going to let you know that I just went on my own personal social media. I shared this to my social media feed. We would appreciate it if you did the same. And if you can't, if you can't bring yourself to share this on Facebook, at least go down and give us a like. And if you're watching on YouTube, I got my YouTube guys over here right now. We appreciate you as well. Go ahead and go down and subscribe to our channel and you'll get first crack at all of the content we put up and every time we go live, which is every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here from the GRM garages. All right, we get started here in just a second. Before we do that, let me tell you about the folks that make this show possible. Talking about our friends at CRC Industries. Check this out. This just showed up on the truck the other day. This is CRC's newest venture. This is Weld Aid and Weld Clean. These are welding prep solutions. So yes, the company that you know as one of the finest automotive chemical companies anywhere in the world, makers of brake clean, makers of CRC, carb cleaner, throttle body cleaner, spray lube. If it goes in a store, they make it, are now making weld prep solutions. I'm really excited to try some of this stuff out. So look for this at your nearest welding supply store. Also, check out our friends at Autobooks Aerobooks out in Burbank, California. Autobooks-aerobooks.com on the web. If you could make it there in person, it is tens of thousands of books, magazines, DVDs from every era of automotive history. It is worth the trip. If you can't make it, Autobooks-aerobooks on the web. All right, that's enough of that. Look at this. We got all kinds of folks on the Facebook feed. We got all kinds of folks on the YouTube feed. So let's bring in our friend Andrew Rains from ApexPro. Welcome to Florida, my friend.
Thank you, sir. It's nice and cold.
Yeah. So Chris, pan down a little bit. I am wearing pants. That is how cold it is. That is.
So you normally don't wear pants on this show.
No, it's usually a pant. Actually, Chris, go ahead and get a shot of the shoes too. If Merrill Shoes would like to sponsor this show, our sales manager is actually in the house. Give us a call. We're Phones are manned 24 hours a day here at Grassroots Motorsports. Andrew, I got a chance to use this product firsthand. We've actually had one of these around the office for a year or so now. We've messed around with it. I had not gotten a chance to use it personally until National Time Trial, the Time Trial Nationals at NCM, which I won. Did I mention that? Due in no small part, probably to this. So
it's a fun event.
It really is a fun event, and I have been sort of getting deeper into data acquisition over the last year or so. Data acquisition can be very, very intimidating. I think as soon as people start talking about data acquisition, people just think of escalation. They think things are getting out of hand. So was part of the mission here with this to bring this to an accessible level, to an approachable level? Because this thing is nothing if not user-friendly and affordable. So was that by design?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So the intent behind ApexPro is to bring data to the masses, right? To bring it in a way that is simple and intuitive. And like you mentioned, our focus is on making it user-friendly. So the whole idea is that you really have to be able to access the interface of any data that you use. So why not make that a less of part of the equation and really make it about actually learning from your data and learning what you can do behind the wheel to go faster, learning what the car might be doing, right? So that's exactly the mission. You nailed it. So we do that through a combination of the real-time feedback that you experienced in the car with the LEDs and the ApexPro app.
So let's back up even a little bit further. You've been around race cars a long time. This is not something that just sort of comes from nowhere. You're a World Challenge racer. You're run Formula cars. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to this point here.
Sure. Yeah. So when we were speaking about it earlier, I've been doing this pretty much my entire adult life, which isn't very long. You can guess how old I am if anyone wants to get really interactive. That's always fun because it can really range. Who knows? But I've been around motorsports. I've known forever. I've wanted to be in motorsports, and I kind of started with the project car. My first race car, due in no small part to reading classic motorsports and stuff growing up, was a 1974 Alfa Romeo GTV.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I started out vintage racing that, ran it at the Midi, where you guys actually had a booth. I mean, years ago. And went from there to SCCA regional racing.
So you started out in vintage racing.
Yeah,
That's really it's interesting first off to see a young person involved in vintage racing and to see somebody start out with that as their entry to the sport.
Yeah, my intent was always to take it to SCCA club racing, but the vintage scene was a lot of track time. The event at the Midi, like you can't get any better than that. And so I always liked kind of the profile of the events, and then it just seemed like a good community. And I was definitely the only person that didn't have any gray hair at the time. Yeah. I've since found a couple, which is keeping that all, that whole age guessing kind of challenging. But
we're getting director's notes over here, by the way.
Got it.
Am I okay, Katie?
You're fine.
Of course, I'm very loud to begin with. So
project
yes,
very well.
Yes. So yeah.
Too loud, Jason.
I know.
Everybody else sounds quiet compared to you.
Yeah. So I went from the vintage racing to SCCA regionals, and ended up racing a stock car. So I actually raced a Ford Taurus bodied stock car for a while, and that was the last car I raced before I got into World Challenge. Ran my own team there, and throughout this whole thing, somehow I managed to get a college degree.
Yeah.
And that was where I drove the Formula SAE car, so open wheel car. And that was where the genesis of the business and the product came from. Really the product, because the business is kind of what we've created from that. The whole idea of just making data simpler, teaching all these engineers that drove the Formula SAE car something a little more binary. Hey, you're overslowing here, right? Was kind of the whole intent of the product, and it was doing it in a way that's a function of grip, showing them something that how much of the available grip are you using? Because there's a lot of existing things like GSUM or a really expensive lap sim, stuff like that can show you that kind of grip model. But the thing with GSUM is it's a total G value, right? It's not tempered by the elevation change on the track, the cambering, the cresting, the actual speed of the car, right? Things like that. So that was where Apex came from.
So you were involved in SAE at Auburn, it sounds like. What was your, did that degree lead naturally into this company?
Yeah, so I actually have a degree in marketing because I had no idea what I wanted to do going into college. So I figured if I could sell stuff, And Katie and I were talking earlier. I actually acted when I was younger, so I thought I wanted to be like in a more performance-oriented business, and then got into motorsports. But yeah, I got a marketing degree. I was the only guy on the team that wasn't an engineer.
Oh, very cool.
So I learned how to work with engineers, and I learned the engineering process. And so that lended itself very well to creating a business from the product. Because coming up with the idea and the concept for the product is a whole different ballgame than actually commercializing it, right?
Awesome. Oh, by the way, you don't have to guess how old Andrew is. He's 71. But if you want to guess something, check out this Mini right here. This is, Katie, what year is this? This is our director Katie's Mini Cooper S.
Yes, this is my 2003 Mini Cooper S. It's great.
Okay, this is a 2003 Mini Cooper S manual transmission. How much gas in the car, Katie?
Ooh, it's got about a quarter of a tank, and it has every single sweater I've worn to work this week in the back seat.
It has a quarter of a tank of gas, and it's full of sweaters. If you would like to guess the weight of this 2003 Mini Cooper S, quarter tank of gas, full of sweaters, manual transmission, sunroof, yes, sunroof up on top of it. We will be doing another edition of What's It Weigh presented by Intercomp later in the show. Closest to the pin without going over, you are going to win fabulous prizes from Grassroots Motorsports and Intercomp just by guessing the weight of this here automobile. If you have any specific questions about the car, let us know. We'll try and answer those later in the show. We will throw it on the scale. Yeah, Katie's watching the social feed, so she will throw it on the scale. Let's check out, see if we have any questions coming in yet. We have guesses coming in yet. Somebody thinks you are 2,915 years old, Andrew.
Really?
So yeah, we're
pretty close.
We're doing fine. So make the case for data for me. I've been doing this a while. I'm a little older than you, and when data acquisition first started getting introduced to these sports, I remember the G Analyst, the Valentine G Analyst. We used to have one of those at the magazine, and it was all, it had like various LEDs on the front. You could produce some data traces, but it was kind of inaccessible. It was like it didn't really produce. It produced meaningful data, but only if used in a very specific way.
Right.
And it's become more accessible over the years, but I think it still intimidates some people.
Yeah.
So who needs data? And are people not willing enough to make that leap, you think?
So that's a great question. So the whole idea behind the product is to break down that barrier, the intimidation aspect, because I personally had that problem. I had a TrackMate, which was great, and then I had a RaceKeeper. I've used a lot of different systems, and I initially thought it's intimidating. I'm not an analytically minded person, but the more I got comfortable with the interface, the more I had people around me using it, the more I accepted how valuable it was. So a lot of those different products, I learned a lot about the marketplace, but I learned how to use data. And if you know me, hopefully someone that's watching knows me, you know that I'm not a super analytical person, and I wanted to create a data system that we can all benefit from. And so it turns out that the interface is really the primary kind of variable in that whole thing is how do you make it as pleasing to people's eyes so that they're not intimidated by it. And so the whole idea with where the product kind of falls in the segment is if you thought about using or you do use a lap timer on your phone, this is kind of the next step from that, right? It's basically supercharging your phone's capabilities because your phone has a 1 Hertz GPS, this has a 10 Hertz GPS, right? Your phone has a very basic 3-axis accelerometer, this has a 9-axis IMU, it has a microprocessor that runs machine learning to develop the grip model that's displayed on the device. So it's really just the next logical step up if you're looking to kind of have that interface on your phone, but have more power with it, right? To really get valuable data.
Okay, so let's take a look at the actual thing, because one of the things I really like about this is it's a very simple package, it's a very streamlined package, and it's a very intuitive package. The interface on my phone anyway runs off iOS, and there's Android interfaces as well, but it's very if you're familiar with other iOS apps, you're going to pretty much figure things out right away, and I like being able to just pick it up and use it. But this is really the only piece of additional hardware that's involved, and we'll get into the lights a little bit in a second. But this contains 10 hertz GPS, like you said, and the
Nine-axis
a
IMU.
9-axis accelerometer.
Yeah, so
Okay.
for people that are more familiar with accelerometers, it's essentially three-axis accelerometers.
Okay.
And that 9-axis IMU, first of all, commercially available 10 hertz, and that accelerometer, those two being priced in a place that's not absurdly expensive, is the only thing that allows this product to be even conceived in the first place. 10 years ago, if you wanted, maybe 15 years ago, if you wanted an IMU, it was a commercial grade $20,000 or $30,000 device that mounted in the center of gravity of the vehicle. And so obviously measurements in 9 axes is really important. It basically builds a spherical friction circle, right? And it has those measurements in all those different axes. So that's really, those two things are what enabled us to build the product. And then obviously battery technology, circuit boards, all that kind of stuff.
And this, the battery of this will last a day of track sessions, basically, from what I've seen. So give me an idea of what type of data are we logging with this thing. It's all basically data being gathered by this. There's no physical connection to the car, so it's all data coming in through here.
Right.
What are we actually gathering when we're on track?
Right, so it's all inertial data. So kind of continuing to use the analogy of the phone app. Think about the channels that you get in your typical phone app that you might use to record data. So lap times, some acceleration information, GPS speed. It's basically all of that, all of those channels, but it's going to be formatted in an easier to understand way, and it's also going to be way more accurate, 10 times more accurate. So using a phone app, a lot of times a 1 hertz GPS isn't high enough resolution to actually plot you accurately around the track. The car might look like it's jumped off the track at turn 1 or something like that, right? So we get rid of that problem with the integrated hardware in the device. But yeah, all the channels are inertial, so that's really important. But what makes Apex unique is that we build a grip model, right? So I mentioned that earlier, that's what's displayed on the device, and the grip model is essentially taking into account all the different things from an inertial perspective that affect the grip level.
And this is where the sort of, in addition to having log data that you can take and look at after a session, and we're actually going to get into analyzing some data that I sent you from this past weekend, because I look at it and I learn stuff, but then I see you using it, and you know, I think there's more functions that even I haven't figured out yet. But there's actually real-time feedback being developed by this thing, which is cool. And it as a driver, it takes a little bit of getting used to sort of adapt that into a lap. But there's actually almost like digital driver coaching going on with this thing.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of what's going on with these lights here. So tell us a little bit about what these are telling me in real time.
Yeah, so in real time, and it's simple to maybe a delta timer that you've used with red and green lights, but basically red is indicating the potential grip level available at that moment. So if you're going into a braking zone, you hit the brakes and you're still seeing red lights under braking, that means you're not maximizing the tire's grip in that braking zone. Same thing when we begin to turn the wheel. If you turn initially into the corner and you still see red lights, that means that you're not maximizing the tire's grip as you're rolling through the corner. Now the way it knows that is through machine learning, right? Which is where it gets a little more complicated, but it's really pretty simple when you think about it doesn't use a predisposed baseline. It has a predisposed set of parameters like logic that compares one data set to another, right? It knows how to build that model, but basically it uses your driving to understand what the limit is, right?
So how I guess my question there then, and I'm not real bright, but it seems to me like if you're a shitty driver to begin with, it's only going to make you a slightly better shitty driver. How does it know, like how far does it push you, or how much leeway does it give you in the outer ends of that performance envelope?
Right, so it's very similar to a coach. So
Okay.
say you're only capable of driving the car at 50%.
Okay.
Right, your coach isn't going to get in the car and go, hey, here's a flyer at 100%. Let's go out there and get it, Tiger, right? Probably shouldn't do that. It's similar to that. If you're only driving it at 50%, you might show it enough accelerations, enough potential of the car by either one corner you're really confident in, mistakes that you make, accidentally following somebody for a lap, forgetting to get on the brake pedal when you normally brake, right? All those different things. It can learn enough from one of those moments to understand that, oh, the rest of the time we're really under what the car can do.
So it can extrapolate what you're doing in turn 7 to turn 17 and know that you're not at the limit there. So how quickly does that develop? If let's say I'm going out and learning a track, how quickly is it going to start accelerating me through that process? Because one thing I did notice with this is it really did help me learn NCM Motorsports Park a lot quicker just by trying to turn all those red lights off, basically.
Right.
So how quickly is there a way to adjust the learning to push me harder or not quite push me as hard, or how quickly is it trying to progress me through?
So it learns, so as a rough kind of number, about 10,000 measurements per second are required to actually populate the algorithm.
Wow. Okay.
So as soon as you hit the brake pedal, it's already learned a lot about how your braking potential everywhere else. And it's amazing to think about because it has to have a lot of sensitivity to do that.
Yeah.
But it's just throwing that weight forward and the device seeing that pitch and that acceleration, and it's logging that many times. So it doesn't really take much time, basically. It's if you think about if you use a predictive timer, right, something else with real-time feedback, takes at least a baseline lap, right, before it's giving you any real-time feedback to view. So it's very similar here. So as just an example, the first lap that I looked at from you from Roebling, by the end of the lap, I felt like the lights were showing something that reflected what they looked like on the next lap almost.
Okay.
Right? So if you're a fairly competent driver by the end of the first lap, it's probably got enough data points to understand what's going on. But as the coefficient of friction changes, as your tires heat up, the grip level obviously changes.
Well, yeah,
So it
and
has to
actually,
adapt with that.
we have a question from YouTube here. Charles wants to know, how does it compensate for changing conditions? If the temperature is changing, if it starts to rain, is it going to, if things change drastically over the course of a lap, let's say it starts raining and you lose a lot of grip, how quick is it going to know that you've now dialed back your available grip?
Right. So there's two things with that. One thing that it does really, really well, and I always like to preface with the strengths, and then also you got to know the limitations.
Yeah.
Every product's got limitations, so that's something that we can discuss. So the strengths are it learns a new peak grip level extremely quickly and extremely well. So say the temperature changes, your tires get up to temperature, it's going to understand based on previous accelerations. If you throw it into the corner 1 mile an hour faster and the G load's a little bit higher, all of a sudden it's adding more information to that model. So that's forward learning, right? It learns the new peak limit very, very well. If all of a sudden it just dumps rain in the middle of the session and the grip decreases 20%, it might only learn that there's a little bit less overall grip, but it's not really going to understand, hey, all of a sudden now the car's sliding, and that's just the limitation of the software.
I think you would be able to tell if it gets wet, it's probably raining.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Hopefully
you got that.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's biased a little bit towards increasing performance rather than being served, which is great.
Right.
Which kind of mirror. Now you do a lot of driver coaching yourself. How much of your driver coaching has been, how much of this is your brain that's been hardwired into something? Is this, does this coach me in a, if you were to right seat with me, would you be sort of pushing me in a very similar way to this?
I feel like probably so.
Yeah.
And the reason that this is really kind of shaped, and kind of the way I look at it is I got really invested in coaching and got some experience doing that and realized I love it. And I've realized that by selling the product, I can help coach a lot more people than I ever could, which is I find really cool. But what the device really teaches you, or is attempting to teach you and displaying to you, is where the edge of the friction circle is.
Okay.
And that's something that we all struggle with as drivers at in a certain corner. No matter how good of a driver you are, you're constantly searching for a way to fully utilize the tire, because that's not always equated to being all the way on one of the pedals, right? It's a very kind of ambiguous, I've got this much steering in and this much slip angle. There's a lot of variables going in there. So what it's attempting to teach you is, how do you roll off the brake pedal and add steering? What's that dance look like? And is there more room there for you to be confident? So I think so, in a lot of ways, yes.
And I think the marketing side of you sees where I'm going with that. Is the next logical step, obviously, is celebrity driver coaches. Give me the Terry Irwood signature model.
That's
that
right.
Going to go, hey man, go a little bit faster in this one. You're embarrassing me. All right, so let's. So it sounds like our audio is looking good. Cool. Let's talk a little bit about. I want to look at some of the data it produces because that's fascinating too. But let's deal with some of the questions. Oh, first off, thanks for checking in. We got Texas checking in. We got one of our friends checking in from Christchurch, New Zealand, who's usually in Melbourne, Florida. So I think she's there visiting somebody. Tell us about, obviously being accelerometer based, it's getting data from the car. Does it have to be mounted in a certain orientation? And since it's giving you real-time data too, like I like mine. Mine's mounted right on the dash in front of the steering wheel, where it's right in my eye line.
Yeah.
But if you don't want that, do you want it, in a certain place in the car? Is it going to get better data in a like towards the center of mass of the car, or center of rotation, or what's our mounting options
So
here?
the device is designed to be mounted directly on the dash, where it has a clear view out the windshield, and then also mounted like you see it mounted here, right? Not upside down.
Right.
And then really the only mounting characteristic you have to consider is you want the aluminum anodized backplate to face the direction of travel. That helps the GPS have the best accuracy, basically.
Okay.
It is somewhat corrected with software, but it's always better if you can adjust it and calibrate it and have it facing the direction of travel. That's really all there is to it. Other than that, so that's one piece of it, how the actual device works. And the other piece is, like you said, the vision. So what's important to know is how powerful your peripheral vision is, and something that really, when we started developing the product, that really sold me on the concept of real-time feedback was first of all my own progression as a driver, where I realized when I first started driving, all I saw was exactly what I was looking at, right? And the more you drive, when I went from a World Challenge race and I hop back in like a Champ Car Series race, I feel like I'm swimming in the kiddie pool and I can see everything all the time.
Yeah.
It's moving at a slower speed, right? And that gave me a lot of confidence to help people understand that if you just put it in your line of sight and let yourself experience it long enough, it'll start to become something that you just experience, you just see. So it really depends on what kind of driver you are. So most road courses turn right more than left. So a lot of times I'll see people mount it just right of center. So that's helpful if your eyes are usually out of the right side of the windshield. Maybe you're working on one, like a lot of times I'll actually move it for a specific corner. So I'll use our suction mount and put it on the windshield and put it, hey, I'm really focused on this left-hand corner. Somewhere I don't have a lot of confidence.
Okay.
Maybe it's high speed and I'm just not committing to the entry, and I want to be reminded of that. And so I'll put it there. But it really depends. I like it right in the middle, like you said, because as a human, our peripheral vision is an incredible thing, right? We have a 200-degree field of view. So like when you are driving straight ahead, you can see a car approach you from the side without even moving your vision, right? You see the movement. So what our peripherals detect well is motion, and then secondly, color. So at a range of about 100 degrees, we can see color really well. So as long as it's within about 100-degree range, it's fairly easy for your peripherals over time to adapt to.
Very cool. Okay, let's see if we got any questions here. Somebody. Okay, Ryan wants to know if it changes the potential grip limits if you move it from car to car, and I think the answer would be, well, it does, but it calibrates in a matter of seconds. Like your startup procedure, there's a calibrate button on the interface, and it calibrates in a matter of seconds. So moving it from car to car seems fairly easy, right?
Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, so Ryan, it's really simple. When you mount it in another car, you just press the calibrate button, and that zeroes the sensors. And then from there, all you have to do is drive, and it uses your driving to populate the model, right? It doesn't go off something arbitrary, right?
So, I as much as I love it, I'm still learning to trust it. And I'm still sort of working my confidence up, because it's not something, I'm not used to real-time feedback that isn't Terry Irwood in the right seat, or on the outside of turn 5 at Road Atlanta looking at me and just shaking his head like this. So it's exactly. So it's taken me some getting used to. So there's different settings. We'll go through the interface here in a minute, but there's basically different sort of skill level settings that you can use to kind of fine tune it. So ultimately, when we're using this, you can actually kind of see right now, if you're, the harder you corner, the more of those red lights that it turns off essentially, and that's kind of the ideal condition right there, right? You want to turn as many of those red lights off as you can. So how quickly is this thing reacting based on where I am on track? If I'm in a corner, what's sort of the real-time resolution of the accelerometers, where like how far behind reality are these lights?
That's a great question, and probably the best way to get a feel for that is to watch some in-car videos on our YouTube channel, or maybe we can share some later, just so that you can kind of see. It's very quick. I don't have a time frame to give you just off the tip of my tongue, but it's very reflective. By the time the acceleration is transferred into your butt, it's almost there. it's probably a nanosecond.
It's
right?
it's probably faster than your hands.
It's very
anyway,
very
yeah.
and that was one of the hardest things in the development of the product to grapple down, which was how quick does that exchange have to be, right? But you'll notice that it's like a virtual butt dyno. It kind of is going to reflect, the acceleration that you're feeling at the time.
It's really cool. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to see the interface. I want to see some of this in action. I sent you some data traces. Before we do that, take a quick break and talk about the folks that make this show possible. I am really excited. CRC acquired this company, WeldAid. This is now a CRC product. We are very excited about this. One of the keys, as we have discovered in every single one of our welding shows, is proper prep of your base metal, and that is exactly what WeldAid does, and Weld Clean. And I've not had a chance to use it yet. This stuff just came off the truck, but it is brand new from CRC. We are stoked to use it, and it is available in welding supply stores. If not already, then very, very soon. So it's really exciting to have a company we're involved with continue to make more stuff that we use around the shop. That big shelf of CRC stuff over there, that's not green screen. That's not like, orcs and trolls and stuff back there. That is actual products that we are using every day because we are huge fans. We are very, very proud to have CRC aboard. If you are in a store somewhere, if you are in Lowe's or Home Depot or Harbor Freight or Advanced Auto Parts, Napa, O'Reilly Auto Parts, and you're reaching for automotive chemicals, you grab some of that CRC stuff, you're getting good stuff, obviously, but you're also giving a little bit back to the motorsports communities that they help support, and we would really appreciate that. Check them out online, crcindustries.com. Even better, just grab a red can of something next time we're in a store. I got to sneeze in here somewhere too, so I'm apologizing in advance for that. Hang on. Oh, that feels so good. Okay. Also,
Worse than just
after I know it was awful. I'm not going to shake his hand again now, though. So, also, please check out our friends at Autobooks Aero Books out in Burbank, California. World's greatest bookstore, right there. Tens of thousands of books, magazines, DVDs, covering the entire history of transportation and motorsports. If you can get out there in person, it is worth it. They have great live events, author signings, cruise-ins, cars and coffees, all kinds of cool stuff. If not, check them out online, autobooks-aerobooks.com. And they have lots of books on driving technique as well by lots of famous authors, many of whom have signed books right there in the store. And in just a short time, what's our time check, Katie?
we're halfway through the show.
We're halfway through the show, so in about 20 minutes, we're going to let you guess the weight of this 2003 Mini Cooper S, owned by our very own director, Katie Suttard, in this week's edition of What's It Weigh, presented by Intercomp. We're going to lower it down onto those Intercomp wireless scales. If you guess the weight closest to the pin without going over, you will be the winner of fabulous prizes. As you went over, you know it already, I think. We've been shouting the number out here a little bit, so you're probably...
Yeah, I was doing this the whole time.
Yeah, you're well informed. So it is a 2003 Mini with a manual transmission, quarter tank of gas, and a bunch of old sweaters in the back. So that's... Okay, they're very nice sweaters, actually. They're
Very nice sweaters. Lightweight sweaters.
They're great. They're very...
Or heavy.
Yeah, they're all carbon fiber sweaters.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
let's...
actually very cold, though. Yeah.
Let's...
I saw a good question there from some friends, and
The go-kart question is interesting. Let's...
we can get to that. It does, yes, technically work on a go-kart. The mounting situation's a little more challenging, and it's also a little, your vision's not as focused as it is on a road course, so it's a little more tricky, but it actually does work really well.
Cool. All right, we had a couple of people ask about
Android
versus iOS.
we can go into that.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit. I've been using it on iOS, obviously. What other platforms is it?
Yeah.
Or what type of device do we need to run it? I use it on my iPhone.
Right.
But I'm sure any Bluetooth enabled iDevice is fine.
Yeah. So
how
primarily,
about Android?
right, so something important to discuss, and that's and we're actually going to be discussing more of this on our own channel. So if you don't follow us already, ApexPro, follow us on Facebook.
Yeah, and they're doing really interesting live content. I mean, not quite as interesting as this, but very, very...
Nowhere near as interesting as this.
You're close, though. Like, within 6 weeks, you're just going to zoom right past it.
Yeah, you never know.
They're doing live content, like, every week, basically.
We're trying to, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just conversation and open it up to live data review, talking about track-specific content, stuff that's a little more driving focused. And so it's a good place if you're, looking for your live show on Wednesday, you follow up with us on Monday, right?
Nice.
But yeah, so we're not supporting the Android version. We've kind of made the decision as a company to deliver the best product to you as the customer. We can't build the best Android app that we can right now, and there's a million reasons to go along with that. I don't really need to jump into it. Actually, hopefully Andy, our Android developer, is on here. Andy Funston, are you there? Awesome guy. Andy put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. We're a really small company. We're based in Birmingham, Alabama. We developed the app in-house ourselves, and so to stay focused on, like we were talking before, staying focused on what we do well, we build a really solid code base in Swift, which is the programming language for Apple and iOS products.
And now we have Android devs chiming in that want
Yeah.
want to work with you. So
Yeah.
Go head over to this. Send them an email.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something that and something that will happen more in the future. Is the bridge platforms for Android and iOS will get better, and we'll be able to revisit it in the future. But we're going to be making that more official right now. But the good thing to know is that old iPhone you have sitting around the house can run our product.
Yeah.
Anything that can take iOS 11 or newer, so 5th or 6th generation iDevices can operate on this.
Okay.
So, that's something that I hear really commonly. Hey, I have another phone. Sometimes people don't want to take their primary device in the car, so that's even better. iPads obviously work really, really well with it. A lot of the other things we're focused on too are the social features. So something we haven't really talked about is data's a lot more powerful when it's aggregated and when it's shared and when people can compare. And that's harder to do when you're talking cross-platform, Android, iOS. On the iOS platform, it's very, very simple. You can actually airdrop data, which is kind of addictive when you're at the track, because you can just pop it into somebody's phone and show them why you're faster than they are. So bear with us. I know that there's a lot of people out there using Android. Trust me, I understand your frustrations. There are things that I like and don't like about Apple or Android products. Everything's got its pluses and minuses. That's our limitation.
And just a personal aside to all the Android people out there complaining, you guys get everything. Let us have something for once. And you know what? Now you know what it feels like. I love you, but now you know what it feels like. So, it's not the...
I saw a friend on there actually from Formula SAE, Zach Woolen, a comment a while up. I don't know, we can get to that later. But hey, Zach, glad you're watching. Hope all is well in LA, man. Zach actually is on Scott Dixon's IndyCar team.
Oh, very cool.
Last year, so congrats on the championship, buddy.
Okay, so let's deal with it. Somebody wants to know if Andrew is on a stool or if I'm just that short. Look,
standing on.
I am, like many Florida residents, I am a victim of shark attack, and I was bitten by a shark when I was young. It didn't make me any less of a man. Okay, actually, slightly it did, but I have recovered. I'm doing fine. No, Katie, don't bring the stool over. I'm not going to stand on the stool. Okay, I'll stand on the stool for a second.
We just got to see.
Okay, yeah. Now, how's it feel?
Look at
This is,
that. Great question.
you didn't think this would be so
That's
stupid
awesome.
when you came
fit
here.
in race cars. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about race cars a little bit. I've only used this in the Corvette so far, and I've only really seen it in production-based cars. How does it work in a Formula car? Or we had somebody ask about a kart earlier. How does it work in something that may be moving, vibrating differently, have sort of a different rate of reaction?
Yeah.
Suitable for that type of stuff too?
Yeah, it is for the most part. So we actually range, from all different types of vehicles, users. So most of our customers are in production-based cars because that's what most autocross and track day and club race folks are using. But we do have a lot of prototype car customers. The challenge in a smaller car is mounting. It's a little bit more challenging, but actually one of our dealers, Radiant Racing Tech, he's up in Illinois. He's a vintage Formula V racer, John Kennelly, and he has built some custom brackets for Formula cars and that sort of thing. So he's a great resource specifically for that application. But yeah, it works conceivably the exact same.
And it's going to learn at the same rate, whether you're in something that's putting down 2.5 Gs or 1.2 Gs.
Yeah.
So
it is. The accelerometers can take in that much G-force, right?
Awesome. Okay, tell us. Let's start looking at the interface a little bit. Sure. And so, Chris, go ahead and pan over to the screen there, and just kind of walk us through what we're looking at. This is what you're going to see when you boot the thing up, basically onto your phone.
Yeah. So the app is on the Apple App Store, just ApexPro. We do still have the legacy Android app that's up as well. Same thing on the Google Play Store. So what we're going to see here is the home screen. And this is just kind of your home base on an iPad app. You'll notice the icons are a little smaller. I've seen a couple of customers chime in that are already using ApexPro. You'll notice it looks a little different on your personal device. But a couple of things, everything kind of moves from left to right. So when you first mount the device in the car, you'll see connect to it via Bluetooth. That's on the top left. Then you can calibrate it in the middle. And then the steering wheel is how you start your session on the track. So real simple.
Yeah, and it's very intuitive. I mean, you kind of walked me through some of it, but you know, this past weekend was the first time I had a chance to use it without being able to run and ask you a question. So, and I got through it. In fact, we've talked about the real-time features. Let's look at some of the data it actually produces.
Cool.
Do you have my laps on there?
I do.
Okay,
So
yeah. So
I've got
bring
3
up a couple
JG
of those.
sessions here. So you were at Roebling Road Raceway,
Yeah.
and you actually shared these to me. So new sessions are going to populate here at the top of the page. So think about it like your Facebook or your Instagram feed. And then I can just tap, and I think the middle session was your fast one. I can just tap the session and it's going to appear. So you had kind of an interesting format. We've got a couple of laps on there, but I've got that middle lap selected, and that's what we see on the GPS satellite.
Yeah, and just to let folks know what this was, it was a National Council of Corvette Club event at Roebling. It was not really a flying lap session. It was a standing start session. You would start essentially from the end of the pit road where that marker is. Now the clocks were about halfway between that point and turn 1, and then you would go through the clocks at speed, you know, in like third gear, and then you would run back around to where the clocks were placed. So it was kind of it was a flying lap, but you weren't really going full speed on the first lap. And it was a nice way to compare because you were always starting and ending in the same spot, and it was a great way to compare data back to back. So yeah, so you've got the best lap up there, and
yeah.
So what if I came to you with this data as a coach, now that you have this info, how are you going to kind of walk me through what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong?
Yeah,
here?
so real simple on this first page, a couple of things we need to know. We've got our Apex score selected here, so Apex percentage. That's basically what the lights were showing us. So what we're looking for at this is yellow coloring in the corners. But also what's important to know is we can tap the lap at any point, and we can actually see what our instantaneous Apex score is.
And when you talk about Apex score, that's sort of a unique function of this. And the way I understand it is it's a calculation of how much of the potential of the car you're using at that point.
How much potential grip, but also it's tempered with speed.
Okay.
So Apex score is not just how much total acceleration are you achieving, it's basically how efficiently are you getting the car through that part of the course, and how close does the device think you are to the edge of traction. So what we're looking at here, and I've actually gone through it a little bit, and I kind of identified our 3 best places for opportunity, but what's important to know is that we can scroll and we can color the lap here by whatever we want to see displayed. So we can see acceleration in the x-axis, acceleration in the y-axis, and then if I want to see what the lights were showing you, I'm going to press this play button right here, and that's where we're going to see the car replay. So what we notice is that there's actually a good bit of grip left on the table here on our entry
As I'm
one,
breaking into one.
which is very, very normal at Roebling, right? I've been off the track there into the sandbank at the end in my stock car. So we have more potential there. And then another place you do a really good job getting the car through turn 2. So we're watching our lights here on the light bar. You can actually pick that up and move it. Your exit of 2 is really good. And then the other place where we can roll more speed here is in 3. And what I noticed is on your fast lap, you got through 3 a lot faster.
Yeah.
And you actually took an earlier apex. Right, so your line, you actually started to turn in earlier, but it seemed like you kind of had a slower rate with the wheel, and you rolled in a lot of speed and really loaded the outside tire. And I knew that because I looked at your speed trace. So this is our first screen. We see all that on the GPS overlay, but if we really want to get in the weeds even further, we can swipe in the middle of the screen.
Oh man!
Over twice. There we go. And now we'll see the crosshairs, see where the number is.
Oh yeah.
That's where you are on your speed trace.
So this is like a much more traditional data acquisition type speed trace. So,
exactly.
so you can
speed
see
versus distance.
You can see all the times that I'm coming on and off in that corner.
Yeah.
And exposing myself here on
and
TV.
You mentioned channels and stuff earlier. This is really before, and what we're really adamant about as a company is selling the product to people that recognize how much of a processor they have for their data.
Right.
How much time are you actually going to spend on it? Do you want to get something out of it while you're at the track? Or are you only going to use it in review? This is the perfect product for somebody that wants to spend a few minutes in between sessions and get high quality data. and then may also want to spend an hour or two when they get home and really dive into it. But if you want, damper, you want to instrument your dampers and know your tire pressures and temperatures in real time and stuff, you're going to need more equipment to do that, right? This isn't the product for that.
So we have a couple questions that I want to get to before we lose these folks here. So Chris, come back to us for a second. We're reviewing this on an iPad right now. Is there a way to take this data to another, like can we transfer this data to a laptop and review it there somehow?
Yeah.
Is there a way to view this in sort of other formats?
Yeah, we actually can. So the way we would do that, and now we don't have our screen up there, but we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we work with a platform called Track Attack.
Okay.
And you can actually export your data as a CSV file and use it in Track Attack.
Okay.
Now it's not going to be the same resolution as on the app because we're having to take it down to 10 samples per second basically, but you can get it on your PC. Right?
And that kind of answers the next question here. Somebody wanted to know if they can overlay the data with video, and Track Attack would allow you
Yes.
to do that as well.
You can do that
because you
in
can
that
just bring it in as a CSV.
You can.
So,
Same with Race Render and Dashware. If you take that CSV, you can format it. It's a little more DIY intensive, but you can format it and overlay it with video. Yeah, but it doesn't render video in the app.
okay, and you guys have a pretty good online community. If somebody doesn't really know how to do this, they can probably go to your community and kind of maybe have
Yeah.
somebody do that for them, or
Ask questions.
get
Yeah.
a mentor a little bit to help them through that process.
Absolutely. I saw Eric Meyer on here.
Yeah.
Eric knows how to put stuff in Track Attack.
So everybody ping Eric Meyer because he's not busy. He's all right.
Yeah.
So I want to get back to this in a second, but tell me a little bit about, don't give away any corporate secrets here, but what is on the drawing board for, like, what's on your wish list for development for this thing? I know one of the things that I keep bugging you about is OBD2 integration, because especially, as somebody who's primarily an autocrosser, one of the most important things for me, especially in a powerful car like the Corvette, is having a throttle application trace. How often can I get to full throttle? Where can I get to full throttle? So what is that, maybe something coming down the line, or what else are you guys looking at implementing in the future?
So we hope to do something with OBD2 in the future. That's not in the immediate plans, so not within the next year and a half, but hopefully on a future generation of Apex, we'll have it built out so that we can integrate it with OBD2. Which obviously is great to have, especially once we have more people using our platform and they want more functionality out of it. Something that we're really focused on, there's several different things that are coming in the pipeline, but you'll notice on the app now we have something called Crew View, which allows other users to interact with each other.
Okay.
So now it's essentially kind of a little bit more of a social kind of networking feature where you'll actually get notified when your friends are on track. So the whole idea behind data is we want to make it more fun, because we want more people using it because it makes you a better driver. And the whole mission is I want to help people have light bulb moments behind the wheel. I want people to go, oh wow, that was why I wasn't going as fast as I could, right? It was this mental barrier that I had built up to myself. And I think using data and holding each other accountable to it is a big part of it.
So how quickly, can somebody actually watch my data in real time?
They can watch your position on the track, they can watch your lap times come through, they can watch your Apex scores. And there will hopefully be more of that transmitted in real time. But yeah, right now you can go and see somebody at any track in the world turning laps and see their car position on the track.
Wow, so great. So I'll start getting, I'll get all the lap times for my ApexPro, and then texts of people, giving me crap about going through turn 2 very slow.
That's right.
That's a great function, Andrew. Thanks so much for that.
Yeah.
Okay, Zacchaeus wants to know about adding sensors to it. Is there going to be the potential to add additional channels coming into this thing?
Yeah, so that's another thing that would be required mechanical redesign, so future product, but absolutely. This is our first product as a company, and so we're really relying on you as the community and the customer, especially if you're using one currently, to let us know what you want. And we're not shy about taking that feedback and trying to do something with it, right? So,
Awesome.
So let us know.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go back to our charts up here, because we were actually starting to learn something there, and I totally forgot about the swipe right thing. So in addition to just looking at these laps individually, we also have the ability to overlay multiple laps on there as well.
So I'm going to tap add another session at the bottom, and that's going to have all of our sessions appear here in the top left. So then I'm going to select another one of your sessions. So I believe this 120.08 was your second fastest lap. Now to overlay them on this screen, you simply press and hold the second lap. So now you can see there's a red check mark.
Okay.
And now we have the GPS overlay. So this is a great way to critique your driving line. So this was how I knew that your turn-in was earlier on the blue lap. So what's really important to know is that GPS is usually fairly accurate to the background behind it. The higher resolution, the more accurate, but it's very, very accurate to itself.
Okay.
So I can tell that you actually had a slightly different driving line there, right? So that was how I was able to tell that. Now, if we swipe over, it's going to continue to hold that those two laps being compared, right? So that's our lap time graph. Sometimes it got to be patient with the iPad. We get back to our speed trace. Now we can see our speed trace overlaid. So this is really important. I've actually made some notes about things that I learned from your speed trace. But so this format of the event's kind of a little more like an autocross, where you're attacking the track. You only have one lap at a time, but it's on a full racetrack. So there's a lot of opportunity for you after you do a couple runs to be able to overlay stuff and immediately be able to see, because you're going to have bigger deltas, right, in that situation than if
I
you're turning
can
multiple laps.
I can see just by looking over your shoulder there that my mid corners are fairly ragged everywhere. I mean, I'm giving up a lot of speed after that initial turn in. I'm making fairly decent, decisive turn-ins, but then I'm giving up quite a bit getting back up to the limit there.
Right, and we can actually go over and just bear with me for 1 second, because we're going to go over to some photos that I've saved, because I took some screenshots of a couple of different things here. And the first one right here, right here is your speed trace. So this was the same speed trace we were looking at. I just took a screenshot of it and I circled a couple of areas where there's a lot left on the table.
Yeah.
So really simply, all we're looking for is kind of the difference between the two lines, right? Where is there a big gap? And analyzing that can teach you a lot really, really easily, right? That's really simple. So where we see the circle here on the left side, that was your braking into turn one. So we can see that steep decrease in the speed trace. That was when you applied the brakes into one. On your fast lap, which is the blue lap, you got off the brakes a lot sooner and you rolled more speed into the corner. You slowed it more for turn two ultimately, but you got on the throttle a lot sooner here. So it seems like that was a better approach. But you can obviously also learn from your slower lap too, which is why we do that. And it's also great to be able to compare. But the thing to really know is, what are we really looking for when we're going here? So I like to kind of go through the exercise of finding those big gaps, these things that I've circled right here in our speed trace. And the speed trace is really our home base. That's where we want to operate off of. And that GPS overlay with our Apex lights, because those are going to give us the most indication very, very quickly,
of how close you are to the limit, basically.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Very, very cool. Okay, let's get to the important stuff here. Chris, come on back over here. In just a couple of minutes, though, folks, speaking of important stuff, we are going to be guessing the weight of this year 2003 Mini Cooper S. You're going to win fabulous prizes if you are closest to the pin without going over. 03 Mini Cooper S, quarter tank of gas, bunch of sweaters in the back. I've been told they're very nice sweaters. I don't know how much that affects the weight of a sweater, but there are several sweaters in the back, and there's some gravy that was spilled in there from our craft services table, and that's all. Oh, hey, Katie, does it have heated seats?
It does not have heated seats.
Does not have heated seats.
Bucket seats.
All right, so let's we have some War Eagles checking in. So is there? Do you have to do one of these or?
We don't really have a thing.
You have a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
War Eagle.
Gang signs on the show.
How much?
$4.49 for the device.
That's and the again we apologize to the Android folks. I'm sorry that us I nerds get this one for a while, but they're working on it. They are every day they are working on it. How big is the company right now?
So we're 2 full-time guys on the sales side.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's it on the sales and marketing side, and then we kind of scale on the technical side, because as anyone that's in technology development knows, you go through different kind of waves. So up to 3 or 4, and then we kind of have we have a technician, and we have some guys we use for graphic design. So we have about a 7-person team, but on a day-to-day basis, an average about 3 people. right? So it scales. We have a great situation where we are. It's
Yeah.
a very scalable. We work with a company that does other projects as well. We also
cool.
work on robotics, and we build handguards for AR-15 rifles out of lightweight composites. So we do a lot of composites as well. So we have a really cool. It's all the businesses that we have operating are very cool, and Apex just happens to be the one that I'm most passionate about because I just like helping people go faster.
That's
really.
cool. So who has your average customer been for this? Has it what sort of progression level in their motorsports careers has the average customer been
Yeah,
at?
so really a wide range of people as far as speed. So you'll notice on our website, David Donahue, who's Rolex 24 winner, Le Mans competitor, he uses one and he loves it. He actually, I mean, we converse very regularly and try to get input from him. And then we have everyone from higher level instructors that are kind of getting into the meat and potatoes like we just talked about, all the way down to people who might be doing one of their first events. So I think the product has something that it can resonate, and we're always trying to push our level to create, a product that's for higher and higher level drivers as well.
And Peter Krause is a fan, and
Peter's a fan.
I can think of very few better recommendations when it comes to data acquisition devices than him. Well, the thing I love about it so much is it's the simplicity and the accessibility of it. I mean, it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use, and it produces. There's not a lot of time spent, collating data. You finish a session, you hit a button, and it's right there. You can look at it. Let's. If you have any more questions for Andrew, we'll take care of those before the end of the show. But right now, let us put this baby on the Intercomp wireless scales. I am going to turn these scales on. We're going to lower this Mini onto the pads and see what she weighs in a little segment we like to call "What's It Weigh?" presented by Intercomp. Yeah, we need a theme song.
I can sing something. I mean,
for What's It Weigh? We need. Well, I'm actually.
Like that.
Yeah, if you gotta sing it the entire time we lower the Mini.
No, I don't know if I can do that. That's a big commitment.
All right, we're going to switch the scales on here. We're going to zero them out, and we will lower the Mini. So last chance for guesses. Once again, it is so AMT. Our friend Mark from AMT is taking 2571 on the Mini. I see a lot of high 24s, low 25s. Scott says 2575, 2662 for Alan. A lot of 26s and 25s. I think we're in the ballpark here. Let's drop her down. On the Intercomp wireless scales. Okay, there we go. It is lowered. We are on the pads. We'll see exactly how much gravy Katie spilled in this Mini. Oh boy, we got some people that are really close.
Lovely rubber floor mats. Pretty sure they're WeatherTech floor mats.
Ladies and gentlemen, this edition of What's It Weigh, presented by Intercomp, this 2003 Mini Cooper S weighs 2,663 pounds.
Oh.
I think David just won. What? Yeah.
Alan Johnson.
Alan Johnson was 1 pound under. So was he on YouTube or Facebook, David?
Facebook.
He was on Facebook. So Alan, send us congratulations to Alan Johnson.
Alan just didn't know that I spilled a pound.
Yeah, it was a much bigger gravy spill than Alan thought he was, but he was close. Alan, send us a private message tonight. We will get your information, and we will get some lovely prizes out to you. Congratulations, and
impressive.
thanks to Intercomp. What's that?
That was an impressive guess.
Yeah, I know. Have we had anybody nail it yet?
Yes,
We
I'm
had.
pretty sure that Dinesh nailed it.
That's right, one of our regular viewers.
I thought you were going to put me on the scales and wait.
So, no, yeah, me and you will hop on there, and yeah, everybody was close. All right, man. Hey, thank you very much. This is cool. I'm getting less afraid of data acquisition because of this, and I think if there's anything that I'd like to get across to people, it is the level of accessibility of this thing and the sort of level of intuitive use, that it's not this intimidating thing that's going to take a bunch of time up in between runs. It's something you can get, even small bits of information are very, very powerful coming from this thing. So is that the answer you're looking for?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's and you nailed the customer on the head. That's
Yeah.
You're a great fit for ApexPro if your goal is I want to get as much as I can for as little time spent. And the whole idea with our company is that there aren't really any other really small dynamic companies that you can actually, as a customer, impact our direction as a company. So when I say we'll take your feedback in, I mean, tell us what you want. Don't sugarcoat it. Hop on our user group on Facebook, and the more of a voice that you have, the more likely that'll be incorporated. So I really want this to be something that the community out there, we love the motorsports community being part of it. We want you to help us shape the direction of the product. Obviously, there's always limitations with technology. There's whatever, but we want to make the best product for the community.
Yeah, I mean, I made a suggestion to him earlier before the show, and he literally opened his iPad and typed something in. My pitch actually was for a stylus, because whenever you're in the car and wearing gloves, you're trying to use this touchpad thing, and it's, I'm licking my fingers and poking the screen, and so a nice sort of Apex branded stylus, nice aluminum, anodized aluminum,
brushed.
And I think $700 would be a nice price point for that.
Yeah.
I'll take a small cut.
Lots of zeros. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much to Andrew Rains from ApexPro. Thanks very much to our friends at CRC. I am very excited to use some of their new weld-aid products. We're actually going to do a MIG welding show coming up in the near future here. Looking forward to trying some of this stuff out. Maybe it'll make me a better welder. I don't know. I know that everything I ever use from CRC is fantastic. If you are in a major automotive parts store, if you're in Advanced Auto Parts or Lowe's or Home Depot or Harbor Freight or Napa, O'Reilly, and you're reaching for the CRC stuff, getting a great product, but you're also giving a little bit back to this community, this motorsports community that we all enjoy ourselves in. Also, check out our friends from Autobooks, Aerobooks out there in Burbank. Tens of thousands of books, magazines, DVDs, collectibles. If you can make it out there in person, it's worth the trip. Great live events, author signings, Q&A sessions with famous racers and people from the car industry, cruise-ins, cars and coffee event, car shows. Very cool stuff. If you can't make it out there in person, autobooks-aerobooks.com on the web. Next week, we will have the champion of our $2,000 challenge, the reigning champion, the Justang, Ford Mustang Cobra-powered Subaru Justy. Be right here in the shop. Sweet. You guys can take it. It's a very, very cool car. It's this little chopped-down Mustang Cobra chassis with a Subaru body dropped over it, and it is just a gnarly little piece of equipment. Cool. And they're going to be on the show next week showing us what it takes to win the $2,000 challenge. Thanks very much to KDR director, David doing social media, Chris working the camera, Kevin, our sales manager. Kevin, this was your first show. What do you think? You're quitting? You're quitting tomorrow? Okay.
He's blown away. Look at it.
And thanks very much to Andrew Rains.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. I'm JG Pasterjack. We'll see you next week, everybody, with the Justang. Good night.